Hey, hey, welcome everybody. It's Sunday, April 28th, and it's your next installment in the Republic Room with Mason and Jester. Just a quick note before we get started on our call today. We took a little time to answer some more questions, and so I will post the answers along with the questions in the room. So keep your eyes peeled for the answers to your questions. And so, gentlemen, where you want to take us today? Where's our journey going to go today?
We're going to talk about money. Everybody's interested in money, and right?
That's right.
So I do want to say one thing though. I mean, I'm kind of feeling pretty good about the way things are starting to take off. People are starting to engage and ask some pretty good questions and whatnot. We certainly would invite anybody that had a question on what we're trying to do here to chime in, and because I think everybody learns when somebody asks a question, it's probably not the only one thinking about it, right? So if you have one, pop it in there. There's no stupid questions, guys. The only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, because then you don't get any answers. And we're liking to help you. We got a program that we're liking to roll through here, and we do have an end game in mind. But if you don't know, if you're not keeping up along the way, and you're not learning what you need to do, then the end game's not going to do any good for you, because you're just going to have a bunch of questions that, quite frankly, we're going to say, well, you really weren't paying attention. And because we need you guys to understand where we're headed. And I think the ones that are really taking this serious are the ones that ask the questions. We thank you for that. And I'm sure the other persons that are, maybe too shy, thank you as well. So don't be shy, though, because we're all in this together. And, we like to bring you with us, okay? We like to get you where we're at, because, it's a good place. It really is. So we're going to talk about money today. We're going to talk about...
And feel free. Well, I just want to remind everyone, free, you can DM me. Yeah, you can DM me your questions. You don't need to ask permission to DM me. Just DM me the questions. And I'll make sure that we get the answers that you need in the most.
And then stick them into the Republic Room too, right?
No, well, they can't be posted into the Republic Room. So
I didn't know that. Okay, my bad. I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, that's all right. No, it's no big deal. So so you can DM me the elephant in the room, and I'll be sure to let Mason and Jester know where we're at with the questions, and we'll get you some answers to the best of our ability. All right, so money.
They could DM me too, but I'd probably screw it up and mess it up somehow. So never mind. Yeah, go to elephant. Probably better.
Yeah, that's all right. I got this.
All right. So we're going to talk about money, right? Real money and phony money and lawful money and legal tender, and we're going to run down the whole scenario here. I assume you're going to put the little boxes that we're talking about on our outline, our USA versus US info outline. You're going to probably copy and paste those. That was really cool the way you did that, by the way, kind of breaking those out the way you did it. So we're going to talk about, 3-4 boxes of the outline here, and Mason's going to be going down through there, expounding on each one of them. So, Mason, I guess it's over to you, my friend, even though it scares me to death sometimes.
Okay. I want to give a quick recap of where we've come from. And my comments will be based on a lot of historical documents, including Supreme Court and actual documents in our history, like the Constitution and so on. But the first part of this is the most important part, and that's the sovereignty. In England, the king is the sovereign, and the sovereign owns everything, including all the precious metals in the ground. And when that revolution took place, that sovereignty and every attribute of that sovereignty transferred from the subjects in England, domiciled in America, into the people here who became citizens of the state. That included the money, the land, and all their rights attributed to that sovereign element. That doesn't mean you can trespass on someone else. So this is about the private side. But big part. The money, because that's where we're at today. The money, the real money, comes out of the ground. Well, who does the ground belong to? The sovereign. The sovereign has to claim it and has to tend it. He has to tend to it. And the real money, which is the gold and the silver and the copper and all the minerals that our bodies need, are coming from the same place. Some come from other countries because they're more, we'll just say, they're larger quantities and easier, whatever. But the point I'm getting at today is that the real money is gold and silver in our system. It's Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. The first Congress, which was, let me click on this. I want to open this. So it's been posted. It's a second Congress actually, which is the first Coinage Act. It was done Session 1, Chapter 14, 15, and it was in 1792. Okay, and this act is what executed the Article 1 element in Congress. Congress has the power to coin money. It didn't say print paper, and to regulate its value. And the values are only based on Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 of the Constitution in gold and silver coin, specific and period. And the last article in this little document from the 1790, is that 1792? Yeah. If you go down to Section 19, and there's an interesting element here. This element talks about the consequences for somehow debasing the coin or absconding with coin, and they're not talking about paper, they're talking about gold and silver. And if you get caught, whoever you might be, working in the government's world, dealing with this kind of stuff, and you get caught pilfering it, the penalty is very simply stated in Section 19 as death. And it doesn't mince with words. So if you don't think that the consequences that these, we'll just call them the lizard clan, had set up originally to make sure that nobody stole their gold and silver, because ultimately they wanted it all. And that's what's happened. So the U.S. Treasury now has taken a few twists and turns over its history. It's managed to print coins that aren't gold and silver. It's been actually inflating the value. It came up with a $50 double eagle, which, that's a fraudulent counterfeit all by itself, because the double eagle is a $20 gold piece, and it's based on a 20-to-1 ratio to silver, which was, from all my study, was the content ratio of gold and silver on the planet. And that's the reason for the 20-to-1. So, right as we stand right now, we're in a state of transition. And just so you have an understanding about the value of gold and silver with respect to us as a human, it has a very interesting frequency. And if you know about colloidal silver, there's also a colloidal gold. And the people who are underneath all this and who are trying to control everything, they understood all this. And that's one of the reasons why ultimately it was a life-preserving element at a certain position of people who were, we'll say, infiltrating the planet. Because this planet is rich in both those elements. So if you wonder why that the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, the fraudulent banking system, all did everything they could to steal all the 24-karat gold, because of that reason. They were using it to their own personal interest. It wasn't about using it for trade to buy a car or something. It was about their own health, their longevity. So the country has now entered a phase of recapture. We're getting ready to move back into a gold and silver standard. And the silver and the gold belong to the people as citizens of the state. All of this country is allodium to the people, not to some foreign cartel, which is what they've done. So when we move into this phase of having the lawful money, not legal tender, it's legal tender, if you want to call it that. It's not if it's paper. Paper is not money. It's a representation of something owed. doesn't even say gold and silver now, even though it did originally. There were $1,000. I'm trying to remember if it's $1,000 or a $10,000 Federal Reserve note that was issued originally, because they were trying to collect up as much as possible. And that was the way they did it. They changed the statutes and the codes in the different states, and California was one of those. The evidence was obvious when they changed the state of California from the original Constitution, which prohibits banking. It forbids banking. You can't circulate anything but gold and silver, and you can't have an institution that prints paper. It was against the law. And as the Federal Reserve System began to migrate into ours, into the state's Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 actual money, they began to change the wording very selectively on the notes. And ultimately, it was no longer redeemable in lawful money or gold or silver. It was legal tender for all debts, public and private. So they turned the whole thing around, and the people that are living now, they have no clue about this stuff because either they didn't learn about it, they weren't taught about it, or they didn't take the time to see if there was something other than this fictitious paper that was inflated and taxable and all the other stuff that goes along with it. So as far as the system as it's been and as it's coming to is in everybody's face. And if you're not a member of the state, if you're not a citizen of the state, you don't have any sovereign attributes about you, you're one of the people that are subject to the credit card, paper currency, and all the other fictitious, fraudulent paper that represents something that it isn't. So just remember this, that Treasury and the Mint, those things belong to the sovereignty specific. And their job, according to the Constitution, the laws that they all took an oath to, if they mess with that money, if you make a demand proper for your labor, for the lawful money that you're entitled to throughout your lifetime, and there's an account, there's a just call it a Treasury Direct or whatever else you want to call it, a legacy account that goes all the way back to the date when they started stealing our gold. All that's returnable and retrievable in your family line, depending upon where your mom and dad were born or where they came from, or when you were born or naturalized or whatever. But your labor is the representation of that lawful money. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things that show up in a very short period of time when it comes to your claims against the system that took a left turn but is now being returned to us. And out of Trump's own mouth, when he came down the elevator, I'm going to give the sovereignty back to the states and to the people. You need to know who that people is and what their status is, what their domicile is, and where their sovereignty is attributed to. So I don't know what else I need to interject in this particular topic. If there's any questions that might be pertinent, Bob, if you can think of anything, or sorry, Jester, geez, that you might think is pertinent to this subject, be pleased to hear from you.
Well, let's see here. I'm kind of cruising down through. I was kind of following along as you went. Did you touch on the FRNs much at all? Because one of the things that people get all freaked out about is the FRNs and the TRNs and all this other crap that they think is coming down the pike, which you and I both know is not the course of action, but it's guru driven as well, as you know.
Yeah, well, the point I made early on was that the Federal Reserve note was created by a private organization that is an alien element. It's a foreign corporation, got nothing to do with our country, our Constitution, or our money system. It was a manufactured alien system that came with the bankers out of England, followed the founders here. In fact, a guy by the name of Hamilton was, I guess you could say he's the guy that set up the first bank. And if you look up the word bank, it means to print paper circulate as money. And that's what is forbidden in at least one of the state constitutions, California, the original, 1849, if you can look it up. It's Article 4, Section 34 and 35, and it's so plain you can't misread it. So the Federal Reserve note is just a piece of paper representing nothing. It's the way that they used when they first started. They said this note is redeemable in lawful money, and it said right on it, $10 redeemable at the U.S. Treasury.
Right.
Those are the words on the document. And,
right.
and as they began to reprint and change, the wording was when they finally got us off the gold standard.
Right.
Now you look at that piece of, we'll just call it what it is. It's just toilet paper, and it's got a bunch of numbers and stuff on it, and it says, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, period. It's not redeemable. It only has the words Federal Reserve. The Kennedy, when he was attempting to put us back on the silver standard, he was printing silver certificates. Well,
right.
That by its nature was redeemable in silver. And it wasn't in some slug that was misminted by the Treasury having other than silver and gold in it as the element itself. So all those documents that have been created and the people that have been enforcing it, the banks, the lending institutions, the housing industry, everybody that's been collecting these instruments without any issue. This is the funniest part, because there's a little principle in our system, and you could be guilty of a crime after the fact, just simply by involving yourself in the criminal activity without objecting to it, especially if you have any knowledge about it. And all of these things that are starting to be exposed now are giving people the evidence of what has actually transpired and what they could do to change their attitude and the knowledge that they need to return themselves to a federal, not a republic, to a federal system. And that word federal is very specific. That's a union of princes. NOAA Web says 1828. Look up the word federal. It'll take you to league, and league will take you to the union of princes. And that's what we've become.
Well, a lot of people think the Federal Reserve banks are U.S. government institutions to begin with, and we know better than that. All you got to
do is go to the Constitution. I don't care if you look at the present one or the first one.
Right.
Look in there and see if you can find the word paper money, or Congress has power to print paper as money.
Well, what I'm trying to make
here,
they designed it. It's not there.
Yeah, I know.
They usurped it. The private credit monopolies, they prey upon the people, obviously, in that scenario. Exactly. They benefit to the foreign and domestic swindlers, and charge interest on the whole business, and that's how they've derailed our monetary system to begin with.
They did derail it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and everybody now, the present population now is a funny mindset that a piece of paper with a 1 on it is $1. It's not. It's 412.5 grains of silver is $1.
Right.
And that came after the Spanish mill dollar, and after I forget what the name of the gold coin was. I mean the German coins. But see, this thing with the precious metals has been around for longer than any of us have been around, and their whole intent was to get all of it under their control, away from us.
They like to generate all they can off of our labor. That's all there is to it.
Exactly. And what you're entitled to. You're entitled to the actual quid pro quo exchange of lawful money, gold and silver coin, for every hour of labor that you worked and received a Federal Reserve note in its place. That's the claim. That's how this thing's going to unfold. It's not complicated, guys, because they got a record of everything you've ever done, what you've done, how you received it. I've heard a lot of comments about, well, what about all these people that made all this money on real estate? Don't worry, they know who did what. That real estate thing is another scam designed to generate numbers, period. It wasn't designed to create money. And that's your promissory notes.
That's another story there together. We'll talk about that.
Well,
the bonds.
Part of the land issue.
Created, the corporate government prints the bonds and takes them to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve puts them in the freaking checking account, and the government writes checks on it. It's bullshit. It's all made up money, but they charge. We got to pay back. So there's another story there. And
what do you pay back? You pay back in paper.
They're paid back by the people through their future labor and the labor of their posterity. So, obviously this is part of the issue is, that the whole economy in that restoring nature of what they're doing there is always expanding. And so there always needs to be new debt notes, new FRNs, and more debt must be created. Now, here's the thing, guys. You guys are all thinking, well, we're going to go to TRNs. What a bunch of crap. Quit listening to that, because that ain't the way it's going to go. All right?
Everybody's done.
I take a bad seed every time I open my mouth here from everybody thinking that the gurus are right and I'm wrong. We'll see, but this is the truth. That is something they made up. TRNs
that was the whole purpose. Yeah, that was the whole purpose. Feed us false information.
Yeah, that's the transfer mechanism for the whole SWIFT system, by the way. They already exist. So I don't know who made that up. You guys aren't getting it yet. We'll see. We'll see how that goes down. But so, the reality is you need to understand this system because you're going to need to get out of it if you can. And you can't get out of it unless you do some things to get out of it. Right, Mason? I mean, you got to get your status right.
Right. Remember, I'm going to say, I couldn't say this more. Only the sovereignty owns the gold in this nation. You got to understand that. And if you're one of the sovereignty, every hour of labor that you created, that you were paid in fraudulent paper, is recoverable, quid pro quo, for gold and silver. That's your right in this system. And if anybody's going to stand there and look at you in the face and say you're not entitled, you might want to ask that person, well, who do you work for? Because if this is your idea of our system, then you're going to get mo. Oh, by the way, you're probably already on the list.
Here's a good point for everybody. Everybody that's listening to this, which isn't the larger percentage of the people in the stream. These are the ones that are, I think, the smart ones that are getting a very good education on where they really like to go. So I don't know what our following looks like. Maybe Elephant, but these are the important people because they're going to be the ones that need to take this out to everybody else. But here's the thing: you got to look at what everybody out there is listening to right now, and they don't understand. Okay, so people say, well, I'm getting this information on redemption centers or this or that or the other thing, and I'm not listening to that. I'm listening to this. And you got to ask yourself, where's that information coming from? Who's in charge of that?
Exactly.
I'm listening to it. Somebody that's giving me this information. Where's that coming from? This stuff right here is coming from reality. This stuff here is coming from the Constitution. This stuff is coming from, many things that we can validate.
There's a little known story about the visitation of a spiritual being during the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And there's some writings on it. It's not easy to find. And there's also another process called the Records of the Crows, which most people don't know about. Only that's another level of information that is only for privileged people who are at a certain level of mindset and spiritual awakening. And here's what happened at the Declaration of Independence. You had all these people sitting around this big table, if it was one table, deciding whether or not they wanted to sign this thing. And they all looking at each other like, oh, man, you know what's going to happen? If we sign this thing, we're all dead people. Well, all of a sudden, a spiritual element appeared in that room with them. And they all wondered, how the hell did he get in here? Because the room was locked, it was bolted shut, and there was no entrance. It was a private meeting. And this being looked at all of them and said, well, you've all managed to come here for a very important issue. It's time in the history of this country, in this nation, in this world, for one people to stand up as a sovereign entity for examples for the rest of the planet. And you're all here for that purpose. So if you think that you're going to get killed if you don't sign it, I got news for you. You're already dead people. You're all going to die anyway. So you might as well take the step and do the right thing for posterity. And there you lie with the signing of the Declaration. Now, for those of us who understand this principle, we're trying to help those of you who may be looking for the truth, didn't know quite where to find it, but guess what? You carry that with you 24/7. And that's some of the frequency stuff that Jester's already presented to the group.
Well, that's true. I already freaked a bunch of people out by giving them ASMR off of vibration, but yeah, I think that we're starting to maybe get a foothold with people that are starting to understand that the world is really actually bigger than they think, and that things are
Much
not
bigger.
exactly. Well, it is what it is, right?
And we're all connected. So, here we are trying to give people out there who maybe not awake, but who might wake up as a result of it.
Well, okay, let's put it this other way too: who are willing to learn the difference.
Exactly.
Somebody that's searching for the truth and hasn't got there yet, it's not the same as somebody that doesn't give a crap about finding it.
No, and you can't be looking for this thing because you're afraid of not finding the truth. The truth is in your face. You're just not willing to step up to it. And like we made a little comment in one of the notes, you can't learn to swim if you don't jump in the water.
Yeah, you can't be afraid of drowning. Well, you can.
You can be afraid, but if you'll jump in, you'll find out you might can swim.
You don't have to be. You don't have to be. That's right.
You got to have the incentive. The only way you get incentive is to get wet.
That's it. All right. Well,
there's no other way.
I think we covered everything. I think we've covered everything in the boxes there that was pertinent to those subjects.
Yep.
And obviously, I would suggest everybody to read those 4 boxes. And if there was something in there that we missed, or maybe you want to have another question about it or something like that, make it known and we'll deal with it for you. Okay?
Yeah, this isn't rocket science, guys. This is
really
regular hometown 8th grade learning. Learn about the ground, the soil, and who you are in life. That's a real challenge.
Elephant, are you there? Did you sleep? Uh-oh.
No. What?
There you are.
How could I sleep without that information? Yeah, no way. No way. So, I once again, I thank you, gentlemen, for the plethora of knowledge and some very clear and easy to understand information. And I will definitely post the outline for people to read about money into the chat, so you guys can read for yourself and have a clear understanding of what it is that Mason and Jester are trying to convey.
And
questions. Make one comment.
The gold and silver.
One comment.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Most of the states have already taken the step of actually creating a paper type currency that is gold impregnated.
Yep.
So just so you know, yeah, and just so you know, so just because it's not an actual coin, it is gold impregnated in paper. And I'm not going to say it's good, bad, or otherwise. I'm just letting you know that they've already started doing that.
It's indifferent, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. We like to get everybody we can on the bandwagon with us because I don't want to be the only one on the train with Mason. So there you go. Come on, guys. Get on with it.
I'm on the Mason train.
Yeah, all right. To the caboose.
Okay, well, I just have this rope hanging out back there. Anybody can grab a hold of it. It ain't no big deal.
Come get on the train with us, guys. It's a different place to be. I'll be honest with you. When we get to the end of this thing and you get where we are, you're going to be in a different place, and that's a fact because we got some other things that are going to really, really blow your mind coming up.
Yep.
Well, I look forward to all of that. And again, I thank you. And we will talk with everybody next week. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you then. Bye.
See you, Elephant.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Mason.
Bye-bye.